about we came off of our leadership retreat. I'm really excited about all the things we're implementing into Pinnacle over the coming months. It's going to be awesome. If you're able to share with us what we're doing on the health side.
Yeah, man. Happy to. It kind of came to my attention really over the last year or so that I thought we were missing a big opportunity, not doing anything on the health and Medicare side of things. Just more people that I got to meet outside of the simplified issue life space, the pure simplified issue life space. I noticed a lot of them were incorporating Medicare sales and then under 65 private health sales into their book of business. And at first, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, all right, they're just weak agents. I think that's kind of what the line has been for a lot of us. We're like, anybody can sell health. It's easier sales and there's no upfront money and blah, 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 blah. And I'm man enough to admit when I'm wrong. And I got around some different groups, some different agencies, some different agents that had slowly started incorporating both of those items into their daily sales. And what I have seen is that for that agent and for that agency, it creates a really large amount of passive income, residual income. And more importantly, for anybody on this call that, wants an exit at some point, hopefully that's everybody on this call. I don't think anybody wants to just sell for the rest of their lives. The private equity firms that are purchasing, a book of business from an agent or an agency, the valuation goes up pretty dramatically if you've got life and health. So if you were just health, you get a certain multiple. If you're just life, you get a certain multiple on your book. If you're life and health with a good mix of both, the multiple is quite a bit larger. I think that was the first thing I noticed, Jonah. And then I actually got to go to a few events over the last few months with AmeriLife, and I met so many agents that were in their 40s, 50s, 60s, which is not the typical agent working with Prosper today. And by the way, that's not a bad thing. I look around and I think to myself, where we're going once I get to share some of what we're doing and how it's going to work and what it means for you financially. Back to it, these agents in their 40s, 50s, 60s that had switched over to incorporate Medicare specifically and under 65 specifically, dude, I mean, within a year, 2 years time, they're walking into every month with $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 of residual passive income from their own book, from their own pen. And so someone like, my dad, I use my dad as a great example, right? My dad's a good agent. He's a full-time pastor. I guess you could say he's a full-time savage and a full-time pastor. But he's a full-time
Can you be too?
pastor. I think he could be both. And so
100%.
he pastors a church. He's pastored since I was 5 years old. I'm 33, so 28 years of pastoring. And he sells final expense part-time. That's what my dad does. And so he usually takes 2.5 days a week, and he's old school. He likes driving around town and getting, direct mail leads and knocking on doors. And, that's his thing, right?
The roots, where it all started.
Yeah, that's the roots, right? But we all know you can make great money doing that. And he makes good money actively. But I had a conversation with him probably 8-9 months ago where he's like, dude, I don't have the time to build a team and produce, but I would love to have a way that I can create passive income and actually make sure that my book is worth something at some point. And I think for a minute, I kind of froze because at where we were, I don't think I had the right answer for him. And it's kind of funny, Jonah, how this works, because I got into life insurance in the first place because of my dad. I told this story on Saturday. I'll kind of share it again here for anybody that wasn't there.
Please do.
It was, I think, mid 2019, late 2019, early 2020. I got a phone call from my mom, and my mom was like actually in tears, and she was like, church attendance has been a little bit down, and when church attendance is down, guess what else goes down? Tithes and offerings at the church. And the pastor is usually the first one that takes the hit because the church has all of the regular expenses. So my dad was getting like half of his salary, and his salary was like $44,000 a year, by the way. So like not making any money. He was never in it for the money. And we live in New Jersey. Really hard to live off of $44,000 a year, let alone half of that. So she goes, he's looking for a job. He has a second interview. I didn't say this on Saturday, but I'll say it on this call. Said he has a second interview with Chipotle. And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, yeah, like he's going to be a chef, like a cook in the back, like preparing like the carne asada and everything else. And I was like, I'm sitting there, in my office, and I'm making really good money at the time. And I'm thinking to myself, this is insane that my dad, as intelligent as he is, as he's a people person, as good with people as he is going to be making $11 an hour at Chipotle. And so my mom was like, do you have a job that he could do in your solar company? And I'm just being honest, Jonah, I didn't have a job for my dad to do in the solar industry. Like my dad didn't have the skill set to go knock doors or be an in-home presenter selling solar. And I didn't have the confidence that he could do that. So that conversation led me to when I got the call from Gabe in early 2020 about the life insurance space. My very first thought, I think nothing happens by accident. My very first thought was, man, this could be exactly what my dad needs. And there's a lesson here, guys. If you can be focused on what other people need, the right opportunities tend to find you too. And they tend to work out really well for you if you're focused on others. And then fast forward to my dad asking me that question about retirement. My dad's 62 and doesn't have anything saved for retirement. And he's like, I'm making good money now. I'm living well, but I want to make sure I have a good retirement for your mom. And all these health and Medicare conversations start coming up. And I show up to some of these events and I'm seeing person after person after person after person that by Prosper standards, you would think they're not the sharpest salespeople that you've ever met, but they're making $250,000 plus passively in residuals every year. And by the way, those residuals, they pass to the beneficiary. So I'm thinking, all right, this is something really interesting. I show up to an AEP kickoff event and I'm at a life shop. It's a life shop kickoff event. And what I figured out quickly, Jonah, was their life production didn't drop at all when they started to diversify into Medicare and health sales. Their life production has grown year over year after year. And the average life agent is actually selling more life as they've incorporated Medicare and health sales because they figured out how to work a cross sell. So I'm just thinking to myself, all right, well, clearly it's good for the agent. Clearly it's good for the agency because there's some overrides too. It's good for the exit. The carriers love it because the business is extremely sticky. When I say sticky, like phenomenal persistency.
What's the persistency on the average Medicare policy?
92% on average. 92%. Crazy high. And what's even crazier, Jonah, for life shops that diversify into Medicare, and health, 42% of Medicare applicants end up purchasing final expense or an annuity. 42%. So,
Well, why? Because the first sale is always the hardest sale to get.
the,
So once you get that first sale, now they trust you.
so I want to pick on, I like talking directly to people. So Derek, I'm gonna pick on you. I love Derek. So
That
Derek,
beard lineup.
look at that beard lineup.
Y'all hyping me up today.
It looks good, dude. You look good.
Appreciate it.
I mean, you don't have Brandon's mustache. Like we only real men grow mustache like that. But but Derek, what if I told you, bro? And I know that some of this is like common sense to some of y'all, but I'm saying it for those of you that don't know this. What if I told you that everyone over 65 has Medicare, all of them, and when you call or take a call, because there's a lot of inbound calls on the Medicare side, which is also great news. What if I told you, Derek, you're not selling anything? You're going to say, all right, well, Mr. Basso, once you grab my information, there's great tools and technology on the Medicare side. So there's a platform called Sunfire that we'll all be using, right? And Derek, if you're sitting there in Sunfire right now, if you grab my information, just grab the last four of my SOCH and pop it in. Not only, Derek, are you going to see all my information, you're going to see what plan I have today, what medications I'm on, my primary physician, any issues that I've had, what my copay is, what my out-of-pocket max is. You see all of that. It just automatically pulls up in the system. On top of that, Derek, you're going to see side by side. Now, maybe I have a plan through Cigna. And AEP, every single year, annual enrollment period starts October 15th. So all the carriers have new plans every year for every individual. And now you can see side by side, well, if I've got Cigna here, we've got Humana, we've got United Healthcare, Aetna, you can literally apples to apples compare the plans, and you can find for me in my county what the better plan for me is this year. And so you could say, well, Mr. Basso, it looks like right now with your Cigna plan, your copay is $250. But as you know, Mr. Basso, every year this time, you've got new carriers. We have carriers that have new plans that come out. There's a Humana plan that just you became eligible for. It actually reduces your copay by $50. And it looks like we'd actually extend your coverage. Mr. Basso, it costs you nothing. There's no enrollment cost whatsoever. I think this is a no-brainer for you. It's going to provide X, Y, and Z. Does that sound good to you? If I say yes, Sunfire hears me say yes, and it automatically enrolls me.
That's wild.
And you get paid, Derek.
Yeah.
Um,
when does that start?
well, it's not over. I got more to tell you about it because it's pretty stinking crazy. If in Medicare, there's something called a true up. A true up is someone 64 turning 65. So it's their first enrollment into Medicare. Let me actually give you the actual numbers because it's different by state. So give me a second. There's national, which is most states. And then there's the crazy states, like the one I live in, which pays the most in the whole country. So I'm going to pick Humana because we like Humana a lot. They pay the agents well. And by the way, this is something I like too. Every Medicare agent everywhere in the country gets paid the exact same commission. Period. I don't care. You can be with 1 out of 500 companies that sell Medicare. You're getting paid the same as an agent, which I think is, it puts emphasis on quality, resources, relationships, culture, which I think is right within our wheelhouse, which I really, really, really like. If you were to sell a true up, so let's say I was 64 turning 65, if it was in one of 45 states outside of Connecticut, DC, Pennsylvania, California, New Jersey, you get paid $611 for that, Derek. $611 for that. Guess what you get paid?
For Joe, hold on. Is it one time or?
You get paid the 611 year one, and then every year thereafter, you get paid $306
Mm.
every
For how
year
long?
for as long as the client has the policy, usually until they die.
Um,
Wow.
So hang on. If it happens to be in Connecticut, DC, or Pennsylvania, Derek, you would get paid $689 up front and $345 every year thereafter. If it happened to be in my wonderful state of New Jersey and California, you get paid $762 on the first year and $381 every year thereafter.
Wow.
The average Medicare agent that's in a cross-sell scenario is selling 300 apps annually. So I don't even like saying selling because it's not selling, you're enrolling. You're enrolling, right? Let's just say the
Joe.
national. Yeah.
Oh, no, you're already doing it. I was going to say, let's break down the math as to what that can look like on a yearly basis for income.
Yeah. If you did 300 apps, and by the way, this would just be the one piece plus all the life you're doing. But just on the passive residuals at 300 apps, we're going to take the lower amount. We'll say the 306 annually. That's $91,000 a year that you're getting in your second year from last year's work. But Derek, it compounds. It compounds. Now you're going to have some fall off, about an 8% fall off. And don't get me wrong, there's follow up. We will have lots of trainings on this, how to keep your clients on the books, for sure. Because every year at AEP, you want to be the person reaching back out to your clients or have your assistant reach out to your clients to make sure that they're in the best plan for them with the new plans that are available. Make sense? That's how you keep your clients on the books, which is pretty easy to do. But dude, year two, so really we're talking 2 years of that. By year three, you got $183,000 of passive income. Year four, from 3 years of work, $270,000. Year five, from the first, you guys get the math, right? You keep adding $90,000+ a year of passive income.
Drop an emoji in the chat if that gets you fired up.
I hope it gets everybody freaking amped. Amped. I think we let fear stop us from doing things that can sometimes be really good for us. And I think the concern for all of us life agents and life agencies was, are we going to drop any life production? I don't think that we're going to drop any. Because if you're already on the phone with me, Derek, and there's lots of compliance, and we'll learn about all the compliance and all the rules and whatnot. We'll have plenty of trainings on all of this. But Derek, what are the odds that I don't need a good final expense plan?
Yeah, I mean, you should be able to. I mean, out of what, those 300, probably
42% is the actual number. 42% you're going to sell another policy. And then we didn't even talk about MedSup yet. A lot of these Medicare plans, right? Maybe the deductible in that area for that client, the deductible is going to be too high for them. The copay is going to be too high. So you sell them a supplemental plan that would cover any of their out-of-pocket costs. And maybe that's another, maybe that's $60 a month for your client to cover any out-of-pocket costs. But that $60 a month is going to pay you forever as well in lifetime residuals. And what if I told you we have carriers right now? Like, we have several, but I'll pick on American Home Life because I really like them. American Home Life, they have the best MedSup product out there. Their MedSup product is within $5 of the cheapest premium for every client in the United States, no matter where they live, within $5 of the cheapest MedSup plan for every client that you're going to have. And Derek, anytime you have a client with American Home Life on their MedSup plan, and by the way, once you have your health license, you're already contracted for it. If you have American Home Life on the life side, you're already contracted for their MedSup product once you have your health license.
Okay.
Derek, anytime you sell a MedSup with AHL, the client gets 20% off the premium for their final expense for life.
Wow. That's fire.
Super preferred. Ben, I love it, dude. Ben's way ahead of me.
I also want to add, so I have my health license, and one way I've utilized my health license for what we do is the Mutual Omaha Accidental is an amazing product. It goes up to $500,000. It has an ROP option where they get all their money back at the end if they don't use it. And a lot of times when I have an equity protection plan that's fixed on the face amount, we'll cover the full mortgage on the accidental side, equity protection on that side. And honestly, like I would tack that accidental onto, when I got my health license, I tacked it onto almost every sale I made. So it was a no-brainer. The selling accidental would be huge as well.
I just saw Ben's emoji. So I'm excited. Now we definitely, this is not something that we're going to drop life. And let me tell you why. Well, for one, the reason why more Medicare agents don't sell life is because life sales, you actually have to know what you're doing. You have to know how to close deals. Make sense? Like life insurance produces closers. So you guys are going to be able to 3, 4, 5x your income annually by doing both. The cross sell is super, super important. And that now money is pretty nice. Medicare and health, a lot of it pays as earned the first year, right? So Medicare pays as earned. So even at 300 on usually, just to give you a real number, about 10% of Medicare enrollments are true ups and the rest are policy plan switchovers. So on a plan switchover, which would be about 9 out of 10 that you're going to do, if you're looking at, call it $306 divided by 12, you're making $25.50 a month on that product for the first year. So Medicare gets real good year 2, year 3, year 4. It's a long game. Does that make sense to you guys? So the cross sell is key because your life, your final expense, your mortgage, your annuities, that's all your now money. And you got to get really, really good, guys. Like I think we have a really strong foundation of transactional business. No doubt about it. But I want to get our agents out of the transactional mindset and into the holistic approach. You are going to be the insurance agent for your clients for life. Whether they need life, mortgage, final expense, IULs, annuities, health, Medicare, MedSup, you're going to have the best plans. And here's what we know. I've met with the C-suite at AmeriLife many times over the last year. They have hammered it into my brain and showed me enough data that I don't doubt it. If we get a client to have 2 policies, just 2 policies with us, the odds of them canceling go down dramatically. If we get them to have 3 different types of policies with us, they're a client for life. We never lose them. That's what the data shows. So what does all of that mean for you? Guys, even as a single agent, you're like, Joe, I don't want to build. If you have a Medicare book of business with life and you're pulling in guaranteed income of $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year plus the life on top, that book is worth some money. If you're building, oh my goodness, double-digit multiples across the board. Double-digit multiples on your net profit. So, I tell everybody, I'm 33. This is not my first business. I spent, unfortunately, the first decade of my life in the wrong vehicles. Don't get me wrong, I made plenty of good money, but I didn't have an exit strategy. And I think what every good entrepreneur wants is an exit plan. You have it here on a silver platter. At no point in time is that book of business not going to be worth a lot of money. So I always said from the time I was 18, got into sales, I just wanted the right opportunity with the right partners and the right resources and the right group of people that I can roll up my sleeves, go to work, and know that I was building something for the future. I want my family to be happy now. I have a nice home. I want to drive a nice car. I want to be able to let my wife do what she needs. Like, I don't ever want to be in a position where I say to my wife, hey, oh, you're going to the grocery store. Our budget is X. And by the way, some of y'all are still there today. Great news. You have the opportunity in front of you to change all that. You have the power. You have the opportunity. Elbow grease, get in the mud. In 3 years' time, 4 years' time, your life is going to look completely different. And the beautiful part is you have a gift that you can give to so many other people. So many other people. The next 12 years, we're still dealing with the baby boomers and the amount of people that are trickling into Medicare over the next 12 years. We could add, I think the number they told me was we could add 500,000 Medicare agents and we still couldn't keep up with it all. It's like this next 12 years, like it's going to be insane. Life is always insane. There's 100 million American adults that don't personally own a life insurance policy. They have it through employers or whatever the case might be. Like, the opportunity is there. Who's going to go grab it? And we want to do whatever we can here at Pinnacle to give you guys every opportunity possible. That way you can build your business, have all the resources. We're building out all kinds of lead platforms on the Medicare side. And let me tell you, that's pretty fun to look into. I'm just really excited, Jonah. Very excited.
100%. Yeah, Derek's comment. Annual reviews are going to be crazy. Like, guys, just simply the amount of business you guys are going to get from your existing book. It's going to be awesome. Joe, talk to us about the AmeriLife deal and what that looks like.
Sure. AmeriLife has a really unique partnership program. If you're not familiar with it at all, I'll give you guys kind of the cliff notes. So AmeriLife looks at their partnership program as a true partnership program, meaning, like, Nick, they don't want to just buy your business and then never talk to you again. That doesn't make any sense for them, because they understand you've worked really, really hard to build your business. You've built relationships. You are a major cog in the wheel for your business. And so they structure all their deals as in a true equity partnership, meaning, Nick, they will negotiate anywhere between 51 and 90% equity in your deal. And by the way, you can negotiate that. So for me, I'll just tell you, they've expressed interest quite a few times into purchasing Pinnacle at this point. We're not selling. We're not going anywhere, man. We're just warming up. We'd be crazy to sell right now. So would anybody else on this call. But I told them, I said, hey, at some point in the future, of course, we'll partner. And I want to sell the smallest amount of equity that I can in Pinnacle, which is 51%. Now you say, why do they need 51%? It's a good question. They need 51% because this is private equity, right? You typically, with private equity, a firm comes in, invests billions of dollars, and they expect a return on their money within 3 to 4 years. So in the private equity world, they call that a turn. So typically at every 3 to 4 years, a turn takes place, another investor comes in. And that allows the initial investor to recoup an ROI on their investment and either choose to reinvest or sell off into the sunset. Does that make sense to you guys? Well, the last thing AmeriLife wants is to have, I think they have 90, 92 or 94 partners now. They don't want to have to go to every single partner and say, hey, we have another private equity investor. We have to vote on this. No, they want to make sure that they can steer the ship and do what's best for AmeriLife as a whole, which makes a whole lot of sense. Anybody feel like you have the knowledge and business acumen to steer a $22 billion ship at this point in your life? I don't think I do. I certainly don't. So 51%, they're going to take that. And again, I kind of alluded to multiples. On the life side right now, you're looking at like a 7 to 8x multiple. If you were just life, they're going to look at your EBITDA, which in life insurance is going to be, what is my net profit plus add backs? Say, what is an add back? An add back would be anything that you spent on your business this year that would not be a recurring item. Make sense? So a lot of small business owners, entrepreneurs, guess what they do? They're gonna buy a personal vehicle from the company to get the write-off. Who here has done that? All right. If you haven't, then you probably should. I don't know what you guys are thinking. So we gotta talk through that, Jonah. Teach your guys. So I just did. I bought one. Actually, just bought a new vehicle for my wife last week. It was over 6,000 pounds. Business paid for it. I can write off the entire dollar amount, right? Well, technically that comes off my P&L for my business this year. But if I were to go sell the business to AmeriLife, they're not going to ding me for that. They're going to let me put that vehicle purchase amount back into my deal, because every year thereafter, I'm not going to do that. Does that make sense? Anything that isn't a reoccurring payment, you could actually add back to bolster the profitability of your company to get that EBITDA number larger. On the life side, looking at about 7 to 8x, you start adding in, they like to see at least 20% if they're going to get the higher multiple, 20% on the Medicare side. So if you got 80% life, 20% Medicare health, you're talking a double digit multiple, not just on the health portion, on the entire pie. So pretty substantial difference. So what if you could add over the next 4 years an extra $1 million a year in net profit to your business with a good mix of life and Medicare health? Imagine you got an extra 4x, 5x on that. That's an extra $5 million in a deal, an extra 4 or 5 million on top of what you already were going to get on your life multiple. So Jonah, if you're going to sell 51%, dude, they actually pay you cash. They give you cash up front. And then they're going to say, hey, so we need you to stay on for a certain number of years. They want you to stay on, of course. You are highly incentivized to as well, because in my scenario, I still own 49% equity in my company. I get a pretty juicy salary for continuing to be the CEO at Pinnacle. The earnouts are 7-figure earnouts annually for hitting pretty, we call them bogeys, but pretty easy growth targets. So not only do I get my salary, I got all my cash up front. They call that taking chips off the table, right? So I take chips off the table, get my salary. I get my earnouts, which are 7-figure bonuses annually for growing the company by growth targets, which you can negotiate. They're pretty reasonable. And on top of that, because I still own 49% equity in the company, I still get 49% of all the profit paid quarterly to me. And the goal would be make sure my 49% retained equity is worth more than the 51% that I already sold, because they're going to want to buy that too. So you say, well, why wouldn't you just stay on and cash flow the thing? Maybe you should. I think it depends what your goals are, depends what you're trying to do. If you can grow, I'll just say this, I'll use a real life example, right? Let's say you got your business to the place where on paper, you're making $2 million in profit. Who thinks they can't do that in the next 4 years? Anybody? Hopefully you all think that you can do that, because you can. Like if you think you can't, then you got to talk to the right people and understand how simple it is to build in this industry. But if you got to a $2 million profit number, here's the harsh reality. Are you actually taking $2 million out of your business personally? Of course not. You're going to reinvest money back into your business, right? A lot of those one-time expenses, things like that. So you're reinvesting. But what if you got a 10x multiple on a combined book with life and health, and they say your business is worth $20 million and we'll give you $10 million today for 51% cash? Guys, there's a big difference between $2 million a year where you're reinvesting half of it and paying taxes on it and $10 million in your bank account right now, plus a healthy salary, plus bonuses, plus you're still getting retained equity. Does that make sense to everybody, I hope? Now, how can you operate mentally with a $10 million cushion in the bank? Obviously, you got to pay your taxes. But how much more freedom, Jonah, would you have with $10 million in the bank right now, mentally?
A lot.
A lot.
A good amount.
So you can look at that one of two different ways. Now, me, I'm wired a little bit different. I'm probably going to take that 10, 20, 30 million, whatever it is, and I'm probably going to reinvest back into my business to really propel the growth, because I really believe that that 49% of retained equity could be worth 3-4x what the original 51% was, especially with that financial freedom. You guys follow me on this? So there's just so many different options. There's so many different ways you can take it. By the way, every partner actually earns, you do have a piece of equity in AmeriLife as a whole. Why is that important? Anytime a new private equity investor comes in, you get paid. If and when there's an IPO, and there will be an IPO at some point in the future, you have actual equity, A-class shares in AmeriLife. You're going to get paid big again at an IPO. So big boy stuff we're talking about here. And it's within everybody's grasp, genuinely. Like, it's not a sales pitch. They bought 70 something companies last year. They're not slowing down. And they happen to have a lot of cash on hand. Jonah, does that help a little bit?
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. And we're going on about 45 minutes here. Guys, I mean, what questions do you guys have for Joe regarding health contracts, this AmeriLife deal? I hope this all makes sense to you guys.
I got 3 more minutes for this call. Time just flew on me.
I got a question here if I could ask, if you guys can hear me.
What's up, Steven?
Hey, what's up, Joe? So I did I sold Medicare as an independent contractor. And don't get me wrong, it's a really good opportunity, some good money in there. When you were saying like the amounts of like the Medicare payouts, that 611 you gave for an example as New Jersey, right? That's people that are new to Medicare Advantage, correct? Not MA to MA?
Yeah, I made that point. Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. My bad. I didn't hear it.
Yeah, that's a true up. A true up, and I said, is about 10% of your Medicare sales. And then
okay,
if it's a MA to MA, it's half of that.
Half of that. Okay. And then you were saying this is going to be paid as earned?
They're all paid as earned. You for the first year.
Okay, so it's going to be paid like month to month as earned, right?
Well, it's prorated, right? So if you sign up a client in January, of course, you're getting a giant chunk. But if you, I'm trying to make the point to everybody, and Steve, we're not getting too deep in the weeds yet on this. I'm not trying to go dive into every detail, but I'm letting everybody understand, because it's Medicare and as earned, it's prorated. So if you were to sign up a client in October, right, and let's say it wasn't a true up, it was a MA to MA, you're getting $25.50 a month, right? You're going to make $75 on that deal this year because it's being prorated. That's the big difference between life insurance and Medicare. So I'm trying to speak to these guys in the language that they understand coming from life. Does that make sense?
Hey Joe, what is there a 6-month or a 9-month advance on the health contracts?
On the under 65, on a lot of contracts, we have a 9-month. On some, we have a 6.
Okay.
Good question.
Oh.
We didn't talk much about the under 65 on this call. We kind of steered into Medicare. But on the under 65 stuff, a lot of that is a 6-month. I got offered 9 months on about all of it. I really like the 6-month advance better, to be honest with you, Ben. Less liability for everybody.
Why is that? Oh, less liability. Okay.
Less liability for everybody. So I put it this way: if we get agents that are putting up lots of good quality business on the under 65 stuff, we can move people to a 9-month advance with no issue. Once we have some proof of good quality business, not an issue. Good
Great.
question. That's a good question.
We got time for one more.
Brandon said, "What's the downside? This seems too good to be true." Well, the downside is it takes time. The downside is you're not getting rich overnight. In life, you can go sell $30,000 your first month and get paid a lot of money. Whereas in health, if you sell 40 apps your first month, you're not getting paid a lot of money. So you know, you're playing the long game, but you're building residual income every single month. So that's why you have to do both.
Yeah, guys, I just want to echo what Joe said. Like, guys, by no means is this going to replace our life business. Like, life insurance is our bread and butter. It's what we're going to continue to do, prioritize. This is just simply an added way to increase longevity and increase profitability in all of you guys' business. So, with that being said, Joe, we appreciate your time. Appreciate you pouring back into the team. Guys, let's make it a prosperous week and reach out if you need anything. God bless.
Later, guys.